Alright guys, I'm just gonna show you now for this one, because now this one is always on, and we want to make sure that when it's off, that there's nothing happening, that this fan goes off, because there's no switch, there's no plug we can use to control this little extra port, extra fan that I've installed in my dryer kit, actually, that comes with a dryer kit. So I'm going to show you how to do this. The first thing we need to do is, obviously, if you got my cover, you take the cover off. And we're gonna loosen up the top panel over here. We're gonna loosen up all the connectors in the back, and we're gonna remove this whole side panel out. All right, so stay with me. Okay, so don't forget, just to mention, don't forget to unload these two filaments from the spool 3 and 4. And now we want to remove these. So as I showed before, one of the easiest way that I did that actually was to I'll try to turn this around like this. Not sure if you guys are gonna see. So I did this, simply put the spatula in here and then do that. It's simple as that. You don't have to go fucking crazy, and people are, pull down, turn. All you gotta do is put your spatula in there and give it a whack. Just pull back on it. It's Archimedes it's called Archimedes leverage. So that's gonna help, and it's easier to remove. All right, let's get this little thing panel off. So I took all the cover screws off. I'm gonna take the 2 screws inside, the 4 screws on the top, and there's 2 screws over here. All right. Okay, now that we have this done, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull these PTFE out of the cage so that I can remove the cage, unlock the feeder, and we're gonna simply go and unattach the feeder, put the feeder aside, roll this up, and this is mainly if you had already installed it or printed the side cover or whatever. If you didn't print the cover yet, or you didn't print the dryer or nor install them, you're gonna do that before anything else. So once this is done, just be sure that you need to take the RFID's connector off, because if you don't, you're gonna have a little problem. You're gonna break the wires and the connectors. All right, hold on a second. Okay, so once those 2 RFIDs are disconnected, one there, this is where my fan system goes. So the input obviously is there and goes there, and then it pushes directly on this. That works like a charm. Temperature stays always around 40-ish degrees. It doesn't go higher than that. Keeps it nice and freaking cool. Gonna save, helping the drivers to cool down is always a good thing. Obviously, we should have more fan over here. There should be a nice little fan over here to cool down the CPU and everything. Guess it's not needed, but I found out that, it's since I put this fan over here, since we put this, there's a lot of air that's being transferred around here, and then it cools everything down at the same time. So it kind of works really well. So what we're gonna do actually for this is that we're gonna use some thermal switch. These are 50C, normally opened, and that's what we want to add. We want to add those thermal switch directly there, so that when the fan is not needed, when the temperature goes below 50C, the thermal switch will cut the power to the feed. Because I fed this fan over here, I fed it directly on my main 24 volt coming from the PSU. So I'm connected directly with this fan. There's no controller that we can use in there Maybe if I would bypass or find a way, I'm not gonna start this shit. You know, this board is proprietary for the machine itself. It's not like a, you know, like a Manta board or whatever. So I'm not gonna fuck around with this to start playing around and maybe causing more problems. So we're just gonna use this nice little thermal switch, and then we're gonna stick this over here with a Captain tape or a high temperature tape to hold it in place. And we're gonna hook this in parallel, you know, cut the wire over here to feed, and then junction those two together before the plug, because if we need to take the cover, we want the plug to be there. So we're gonna junction over here, solder all this together, and we're gonna go back afterwards. So I'll do that and then I'll come back later, okay? Okay, what I did, I spliced over here, so just to show you, we're gonna cut the power feed for the fan, and we're gonna solder our switch, a thermal switch from there. Alright guys, so I made the connection. I've put my shrink tube over my solderings for my wires, and then what I did is I spread the fins apart on the heat block over here, or the heat sink. I just spread them wider, you know, I push them apart, and I squish the thermal sensor in between. It fits perfectly fine and it's solid. So that's one way of doing this. Putting a Captain tape on the side would do the job too, but I think that with time the Captain will lose his strength, you know, and then the sensor is gonna pop out. So by squeezing it between the two fins, that's not gonna go anywhere. So that's it. I'm gonna put this back together and then we're gonna restart the machine. Alright guys, so I'm back. I've reassembled everything. Everything is back together. Gonna put the LEDs inside. There you go. LEDs are inside. I'm not sure if you guys have seen that cover, but this is working really cool with the fan over here. Yesterday I was printing some stuff, PTG, GF, and then I just lowered down my fan and shut the top off. So I was recycling the air inside. Temperature inside of the chamber was staying around, you know, 38, 40-ish degrees. Obviously the bed is at 86 degrees on PTGGF, so, and it kind of worked well, but eventually in this I'm gonna install a little extra heater to, that's really fucking hard to say actually. Eater. Anyhow, so yeah, and then we'll, that's it. I'll plug everything there. The plug is already there, so that's it. Fan is not working anymore from what we did. Put this on. This is working. This is working. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feed our spools, put our spools back in, so feed this in there with one hand. It's not easy, but it works. There you go. So one there, and one here. These are not the most easy freaking thing to do, because like I say, I only have one end. So alright, so there we go. We're feed. I'll go in here. Loading filament. This. Select that. That's gonna be PTG. PTG. Red. Save. This is actually red. 4. PTG. Save. I'll change this to white. Save. Load both filaments. And once filaments are going to be loaded, we'll do a test. Alright guys, so I've started the little print just to do some tests, and actually this print is going to be really convenient because it's a little support I've created for the IKEA racks, IKEA pegboards, so I'm going to be able to have different attachment. For now the temperature is at 56 and this little fan hasn't kicked in, but the one underneath, this is for the PSU, so this is working very nicely and it's not that noisy actually. So if I close this, I'll close this up like that. All that do is sequencing, and gonna let it work. So there we go, our little fan just kicked in, and actually with a 50 Celsius, a 50C normally open, it kicks in at 70 degrees. The heat sink obviously needs to warm up in temperature, and it goes up to 70 degrees, and the heat sink, you know, obviously the switch turned on or switched on, opened up, you know, closed the circuit and started the fan. So now we're cooling back down to 56, 54. So we were at 70 before, and then it cools down, and when the heat sink is gonna reach a certain temperature, it will shut the fan off. Probably that, you know, using a 40C and O normally open would have been better, because that would have been, you know, you see now it's off, so that's what we want. It just plays with the temperature a lot, so it cools down around 50C, and then temperature will climb back up, and then this will cool it down. So at 40 Celsius is going to be better. All right, so that's what it is. At least it works. We know where we're standing for, and then I'll change that in the BOM to buy a 40C instead of a 50C, because that's what I got for my machines.